Hi there. So we are coming up on the due date for your portfolio project, and thought we'd take a couple of minutes today to go over just some reminders and some instructions just to clarify to make sure everybody's on the same page. So the first thing I want to mention is just kind of point out this list at the very beginning, which has kind of the requirements of putting it together. It tells you what the cover should have on it, what the title page should have on it. It tells you about the setup of the table of contents and all of these requirements. The one thing, this evidence of revision, at this point, because we've been doing our work in the Google Doc, you're not really going to have anything in hard copy for this to put in your portfolio. Your evidence of revision will actually just be, I'll be able to see it in your Google Doc that you got feedback and that you've replied or revised according to that. So even though this is in your packet, don't worry about it. As long as you've been in class and you have been participating in the drafting and the peer reviewing. We'll get to this post-it annotations and reflection here in a second. On the checklist page, I just want to remind you, you have to include this checklist at the end so that it obviously has checked off which pieces you did. You can just kind of tuck it. Most people will tuck it in the back page or in the back pocket of their portfolio somewhere. This doesn't have to be any place specific as long as it's included. Down here, I do have a note here, again, just kind of a reminder of the order that things need to be in. You can put your table of contents in whatever order you want. They don't have to go like numerically up or down or whatever, but the table of contents should match up with the order they are in your portfolio. Every piece has to be titled on the top line with the assignment name and number. If you want to include a subtitle or something more creative, that's fine, but they've all got to be labeled the same according to the assignment sheets so that I know what is what. And they're numbered by assignment, not page. So, you could have essay number 2, and that might be the 8th or 9th thing in your portfolio. But it's still numbered by that assignment number 2. Here's a little checklist of documents to make sure you include the rubric at the back of the packet. This checklist, again, you can disregard this thing about the homework drafts. Your post-it annotations will need to be in there. Your reflective annotations are actually, you're actually not doing those this year. I took that out of the requirement. And also, Turnitin.com. As of today, the assignment sheet is on Turnitin.com, so you can upload it anytime. Basically, the formatting doesn't matter when you put it on Turnitin, as long as it's all in one doc. Obviously, visual sources might not be on there, like your Visually Speaking or your Map of Life, something like that. And that's fine, as long as your text is all in one document and uploaded to Turnitin.com. Okay. Now we're going to flip back to the back of the packet, and I want you guys to find the page labeled Post-it Annotations. All right, so first thing is there's a couple of changes. I mentioned on the day I handed this out that there were some typos on here, and I've fixed them on the screen that you see in front of you, but this is going to look a little different on the packet you have in front of you. So basically what the post-it annotations are is kind of a final demonstration of the skills that you learned in the class. This is your final 4th marking period grade. It basically shows your understanding of the skills from the course. Each post-it for these 10 skills listed below are going to be worth 2 points each. And so what you're going to be doing is throughout your portfolio, you are going to be placing post-it notes where you are demonstrating each of the following skills. So each post-it is going to be labeled with the letter of the skill and the skill label, along with like a very brief 1 sentence or less explanation of your choice. The one thing you have to be careful of when placing these is that you place them in a way that I can tell exactly what you're referring to. Because most of these refer to a specific line or a specific paragraph. And if you just kind of slap it on there, I'm not going to know where to look for that evidence. You have to be really specific. Another thing regarding placement of the post-its, if you are using page protectors, plastic ones, which I'm sure many of you are, please make sure your post-its are on the outside of the page protectors. That way I can easily move them because I'll have to move them in order to read what you actually wrote beneath them. So what I'm looking for here is, have you clearly identified the example of the skill, and did you demonstrate your learning? So for these, you'll get a check plus, a check, or a check minus. A check plus is worth 2 points, a check is worth 1.5 points, a check minus is 1 point. This is it's something that I changed from your original doc. So these are the point values that I'll be using. And these are just basically based on how thoroughly and accurately your example demonstrates your learning. So these are the 10 skills that you're going to be working with. And you're just going to label each post-it note with the letter, and I mean, you can obviously abbreviate, just write, semicolon or something like that. It's really hard to demonstrate these skills on list pieces. You're going to want to stick to the lengthier pieces for your post-its. You can't show they say, I say principles on a list of, likes and dislikes. So keep that in mind. If you want to see some evidence of kind of mediocre examples versus strong examples, take a look at the next page. So I'll check that in a sec. One thing to note here, if you feel like you need to explain how your example is showing your understanding of any given concept and you want to say more, you can add an explanation on a separate document. You could tuck it into a back pocket or something like that, or a separate post-it note if you feel like you need an explanation. This could help your case. If you say this is an example of so-and-so and I'm like, if you explain it, that might make me say, oh, okay, yeah, I see it that way. Years past, it was required. I made them write kind of an elaboration on their post-it notes. That is not required for you guys. But if you want to include it, you're more than welcome to. This next page is some examples of each of the skills. And this weak example column, this is something that would earn a check mark. The thing on the right is something that would earn a check plus. So you can see, and I'm not going to read these obviously on the screencast, but you can kind of see the difference in how specific and how developed they are. This side is clearly doing a better job of showing the skills that are required. So you can take a look at that. I will tell you the post-it annotations are definitely the part of this portfolio that students are weaker on. Students often show kind of mediocre understanding of these concepts, but students really struggle to show, yeah, I clearly understand it, and here's a model of showing how well I understand the nuances of these things that we've learned. So definitely pay attention to that. On the rubric page, the only thing that you really need to worry about here is obviously, again, this evidence of revision thing. Basically, as long as you have been participating in the drafting, in the peer reviewing, in the revising, you'll earn these points. Next year, I'm going to actually take that off the rubric. And this is something else that looks different. It was just a typo. It's 20 points instead of 25 points, which is what your document inside says. Okay. And I just want to spend just another couple of minutes talking about these reminders for the portfolio. These are all things that right before they're due, I always have students ask about. And so I want to real quickly kind of go through them and point out a couple of things. Turnitin.com, make sure all of your pieces are in one document and uploaded. Obviously, some of them are going to come up as matches. That's fine. You don't have to worry about uploading any pieces that are visual. I also don't care about formatting things in the Turnitin. We talked before about how you might deal with Google Docs their formatting sort of restrictions by downloading your document, opening it up in Microsoft Word, and you can do different things with columns a little bit easier that way. That's great for your final hard copy, but you don't have to worry about that for Turnitin. Make sure you include the checklist and the rubric. You can put them wherever you feel they fit. Most people tuck it into either the last page protector or just into a back pocket. Evidence of revision, I've talked about that 3 times. You don't need to actually include anything for that. People are always asking me about the prologue and the epilogue. So for the prologue, you should keep it simple. The assignment sheet explicitly tells you what your prologue should address, so make sure you're doing that. And same with the epilogue. The epilogue tells you explicitly what you should be talking about and even like what point of view you should be using in each paragraph. So do make sure you pay attention to the prologue and epilogue assignments. College essay, students always freak out about the college essay. You know, you've got prompts to choose from. But it's not really like any more pressured assignment than anything else. No one's saying you have to use this as your real college essay. If you like it and if it fits the prompt that your college is asking for, you could certainly use it. But it's just another piece in the portfolio. There's a difference in the cover page versus in the cover of your portfolio, the outside, and the title page on the inside. Do pay attention to those instructions. In the table of contents, I already mentioned this. You have to have the table of contents. The pieces can be in any order, but the table of contents has to have them listed in the order that they appear, and they have to be labeled with the appropriate numbers. Within your portfolio, they've also got to be labeled with the title and the assignment number. If you want to use creative subtitles, you're welcome to, but I have to make sure I know what assignment each is responding to. Each piece is going to be about a page. All of them should be the same font, okay? So if you're choosing Times New Roman, that's fine. One of your pieces might be size 12, one of your pieces might be size 14. That's just fine, as long as they look like they're part of one cohesive thing. You don't have to double space or do any MLA headings. None of that. Just make sure they're labeled as they need to be, and that they are the appropriate length. This is a really important rule. If you are going to use glitter or any sort of 3D sticker, scrapbooky stuff kind of things, you have to use page protectors, okay? I speak from experience. I have gotten glitter all over my house in previous years. So if you're going to use glitter or 3D stickers, please make sure you use page protectors. Another page protector reminder, regarding the post-it annotations, please make sure you put your post-its on the outside of your page protectors so that they are easily removable without pulling each page out. Your post-its are going to point to very specific parts of your pieces rather than entire essays, so make sure it's clear what each one is pointing to for me to evaluate. Oh look, I even had a note there about putting post-its on the outside of page protectors. I'm ahead of myself. Your written annotations, again, you can disregard this because I told you that I'm not requiring it this year. However, if you are going to include some explanation, just put it, with your checklist and rubric somewhere near the end where I'll easily be able to find it. If you have any questions about the portfolio on the night before it's due, always just make sure you email me before 10 o'clock. I go to bed early, and I don't want you to be waiting for a response, if you email me at 11 o'clock and I'm already out cold. So please make sure that you read all of these instructions. Obviously, I just glossed over them really quickly. Make sure you're clear on them because a lot of them are, items on the rubric. If you have questions, stop by the room, email me, ask me anytime. Even if I'm not in school, I'm always easy to reach via Schoology message.